off a daily fantasy. His number too high, then I'm probably fading him. He been on the road, he gon' eat up my salary. I hit up by, he go live before lock. Play back to back, then I probably won't pick on the DFS Bachelor. Good as it gets. Bit a few liners and hit me a leg. He had a good game, but it might be a trick. Log in the Slack so I know who to pick. Sharing our liners, we all gon' get rich. New to this game, you should come to the pad. You might want some cash and get a good laugh. DFS Sports, we gon' run up a bag. He heard every game and it's making me mad. You buying your lineups, I think you a cheater. DFS Bachelor, he the new leader. Yeah.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Bachelor Pad. I, of course, am your host of DFS Bachelor, and we are going to go over, and I'm joined, of course, by Mike at League of Items on Twitter, our expert in arms at League of Legends.
Yeah, super offensive. Can't believe you forgot me for about 2 seconds. That was pretty horrible.
I'm moving slow today. I'm struggling today. Very, very much so struggling. We're going to go over our 5-game League of Legends slate for April 8th. Well, technically on the West Coast, the first game starts late tonight on April 7th. We've got 3 LPL games, 2 LCK games. For those of you who are new, that means we have 2 Korean games and 3 China games. How you doing this morning, Mike?
Doing pretty well. Had an okay lineup last night. I think we did a good job yesterday of projecting like who the winners were going to be. I think we did a really good job with JDG, that JDG matchup.
Yeah.
And then in regards to Dominus versus Billy Gaming, nobody really had it going that way, and it was really surprising that like Billy Gaming really turned it on in the second and third games and has had a lot of kills. So basically, like Dominus won the first game in decisive fashion. They had like 25 kills or something like that.
Yeah.
So those stacks looked like they were going to be the winners of the night.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, Billy Gaming just destroyed them game 2 and game 3, and it was a lot because of the drafting.
Right.
So that's kind of scary for Dominus moving forward. Like they had some pretty bad drafts.
Yeah. When I went to bed, I stayed up to kind of watch how the scoring was working for the first game, and I was like, oh, this is going to be an amazing night because I just have FPX, JDG, and Dominus and everything. But Dominus let us down after that. I still had a good night with the JDG APK stacks, so that worked out for me all right. I think I ended up down $5, but did have a nice sweat for a little while. I was hoping FPX would pick it up at the end and outscore Billy, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
So, also, before we get too far into it, thank you for all of your support, all the new subscribers, old ones. Cheers to you all. I really do appreciate, we really do all the support. It's really cool. If you're new to the channel, welcome to the team. Be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Get access to all of our content. I think soon I'm going to start doing some of those NFL simulation videos. They're a little tough because, again, it's simulated video games, so how much can you really put into it? I know some people want to hear about the NASCAR. To me, it just feels like I think any advice would be
speculative.
Yeah, speculative, not real sincere, so I don't like to do that very often. But
Sure.
We'll check into all that. But hit subscribe. We really appreciate that. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Be part of the weekly giveaway. I keep forgetting to write down the name, so I will announce that tomorrow, I promise. I have it written down here, but it's been a long night, a long morning for me. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you all so much. Seriously, really do appreciate it. I do have like a little cheat sheet that's written up on Draft Dashboard. I also have the NBA Sim player pools, MLB Sim player pools, NFL Sim player pools. You can get all that. You can try that for 30 days for $1. That's in the video description below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Mike's channel. Lots of live streams over there, live streams of the gaming. I hop in over there sometimes. There will be a link in the video description below, and you can find it now at League of Items when you search. It will no longer be hidden because he's not.
Yeah, I'm not in Afghanistan anymore, guys. Came back to America.
Yep. So that's good as well. So do all that. We really appreciate it. Follow us on Twitter, updates, starters, etc. We'll talk about the starters and lack of information for the Korean League as we go through the video.
Yeah, and specifically for today, we're going to do, I'm definitely going to do a stream. We'll see how DFS Bachelor's feeling when this video is done. But it's a huge slate tonight on Draftkings for LPL and LCK. So I'm going to throw together my sheet, and I'm going to try to release it to the public. Probably going to make it $5 just so everybody gets access to the sheet for tonight. And then we'll see how that goes. And I think the most important thing for people who decide to give it a shot for the first day, you have to think about it as like a test run to see if you can utilize the information that I'm giving to you.
Right.
So just keep an eye out for that. And we're gonna do like a really in-depth dive later today on my show.
So are you gonna have people
Make sure to check
PayPal
it out.
that to you, or how do you want them to follow you on Twitter and DM you, and they can PayPal
Yeah,
it and you can send it to them?
make sure in order to get access to the sheet, you have to follow me on Twitter, follow me on YouTube, and then I'm gonna release the information about how to get it through my Patreon later on today.
Okay.
So all of that should be figured out within the next 2 hours, and then I'll probably try to have it start up as a live stream on YouTube, and then people who want to like watch what I have to say afterwards but can't join the live stream, it'll be posted on my channel.
Perfect. Sounds good. So check it all out. Be sure to check that out. So we have a 5-game slate. As usual, the starters for the China League, for Chinese League, LPL, are already out. And I've already retweeted that on Twitter. I'm sure you have as well. They're already up. The Korean League, we are 99.9% not going to know the starters before the slate locks tonight, because the Korean games start 2 hours after lock. And Korea doesn't release their starters because they don't like gambling. So
Correct.
I get that question a lot. Believe me, we'd love to know. We'll talk about how to protect yourself on that during the video when we go over the teams, because there is a way where you can make sure you don't have those daunting zeros in your lineup, which seems to happen to newer players. So we'll try to avoid that as well. So our first game, we have Rogue Warriors on the blue side versus Victus Gaming. Victus Gaming is the favorite in this game. I actually like this game. I like VG a lot. I think they're underpriced as I looked through it the first time. What are your thoughts on this game?
So I think that the important one thing when you're analyzing a new slate for League of Legends is to make sure that before you start making too big of opinions on individual players, you want to see like who the biggest favorites are and who the biggest underdogs are, because that's really how the salary is decided. It doesn't have to do as much with the matchup, and it should like you when you have a regular sport like football or basketball, the matchup is more important because Vegas is also projecting like how many points they're going to score in the game. In League of Legends, they try to kind of do that by releasing the money line, but DraftKings only uses the money line to determine salary, I think. Like
Right.
they might make a slight adjustment, but it's really just driven by the percent chance to win. And there are so many ways to win in League of Legends that the outcomes can be like fundamentally different. Like one team winning could be equal to another team losing. So it's
Right.
more like if you have a very defensive team in the NFL where they're only scoring between 14 to 17 points a game, as opposed to like the New Orleans Saints when they're going out of control at home, that they can
Right.
score like 30, 35, 36 points. So that difference is not normally baked into the salaries. And that's something that you have to adjust for with projections, which I'm starting to do.
Gotcha.
So in terms of this matchup, I think that Rogue Warriors and Vici Gaming, Vici Gaming is a 60% favorite to win this. Is that right? 60%? And then Rogue Warriors is 36?
I don't
So
have
it's
it
one
up in front of me.
Yeah, Rogue Warriors, they're at minus 178. That's equal to 36%.
Something like
And then
that.
Vici is minus 150, and that's 60%.
Yeah.
So that's not even 100%. That's weird.
Yeah. Maybe that doesn't make any sense. Well, it's right around.
Let me
It's
just
close
make
enough.
sure I have that right. So
Right.
so if you look at it like relative to everyone else on the slate, Vici Gaming is the fourth biggest favorite.
Right.
So a lot of the DFS pros that are out there aren't going to have gigantic. Okay, so I actually have that line wrong. So it's minus 244.
Gotcha. So yeah,
So they're 70% favorites to win
Yeah.
this.
there you go.
Yeah. So I do not think that Vici Gaming is that big of a favorite against Rogue Warriors. The one benefit, if you're going to roster Vici Gaming, is that Rogue Warriors gives up a lot of DraftKings points.
Exactly.
And the reason that happens is that in League of Legends, when you're playing from behind, there are only so many ways that you can do it. So
Right.
if you think about the NFL, some underdogs, the only way they can win is by scoring a lot of points. Other underdogs, the only way that they can win is by limiting the amount of damage the opposing team does. Rogue Warriors is one of those teams that wants to basically outscore you with kills.
Right.
So I would expect that if Vici Gaming wins this series, they will have a pretty good a pretty good day, and we really want that 2-0 upside.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Rogue Warriors, if they have any chance in this game, it's going to be. It might actually be a little lower than what you would typically get from Rogue Warriors,
Right.
because Vici Gaming, the one thing I always like to mention is that they have one of the best coaches in the world.
Right.
So I think that increases Vici Gaming's chances of winning the set outright, but it doesn't have a big impact on their DraftKings scoring, because the goal is to win the game, not score fantasy points.
Right. And one advantage of I do think ownership will be up a little bit just because it's the first game. There's not another game for 2 hours, so it is the first game on the slate. So that always increases ownership. But I like Vici Gaming, just like you said. Rogue Warriors gives up a ton of points when they do lose. It's an aggressive team.
Yeah.
And it's an LPL game, so we already know who's going to play and who's not going to play. And I think that's a big advantage that you're looking for. Focusing on those LPL games really does help when wanting to know who's going to do what. Is there any like individual matchup that we should be watching for that maybe would increase the value of a top more than normal, or a mid, 80 carry, etc.?
Sure. So the ways to look at it are mid and 80 carry. If you're going to have exposure to Vici Gaming and you think that they're going to 2-0, or if you think they're going to win at all, then you need to have exposure to their mid laner and 80 carry. And then when you're making decisions between the top jungle and support, it really comes down to the game flow. So the first one to look at, the top laner. In order for the top laner to justify being in your lineup, you need him to have one game where he has the second or third most kills on his team. And that doesn't really happen often. Most top laners get to value by getting assists in the late game team fights. And it really requires a lot of effort for teams to spend resources in the top lane. So it's not the most common way of looking at things.
Gotcha.
So if you were just going for a baseline projection, the jungler is always going to be like involved in creating the lead for the team. So that's why I typically like going for junglers as my secondary options before top and support.
Gotcha.
So then we're really making a decision between top and support. So like I said, top laners, they need to have one high kill game, or like very heavy assist games, or have the team be the highest scorers on the night.
Right.
And then for supports, their upside is attached to whether or not they play something like, if their team drafts Senna, they have additional upside. If their team has a lot of kills, then they're good. But then for tops and supports and the team, we really need the games not played bonus.
Right.
Those are the easiest projections. That's the easiest way for them to get to value based on projections.
Sure.
Is by that 2-0 bonus.
Yeah.
So Vici Gaming definitely has that upside. So I do like the secondary and tertiary options for Vici Gaming, meaning the jungler, top, support, and team. And I probably like that even a little bit more than the mid and the 80 carry. So if we think that Vici Gaming is going to win tonight, and we have Forge or iBoy as our captains, then you want to jam in a couple of the other people on the team.
Sure.
But if we're going to use it as our secondary stack, I would want only the mid laner or the 80 carry, so that we have access to the carries from a different game.
Gotcha. Makes a ton of sense. That's exactly how I approach it. I think I think Vici Gaming right now is my favorite of the night as just getting started.
Sure. And I think that in terms of ownership, just to make sure that we're different from other people, I think that Vici Gaming, for the reasons that you're saying, is going to be more popular than they normally would be. So going against Rogue Warriors is going to increase their ownership. Being the first game of the night is going to increase their ownership.
Right.
And then let's see if their most recent outcomes, they have a pretty good box score, even though they lost their last matchup.
Right.
The three other matchups that you're going to see are all victories. So I think that's also going to increase their ownership a little bit, depending on what contest you're playing in.
Sure.
So that does scare me a little bit, and that does make Rogue Warriors a contrarian option. I wouldn't want more than 10% of Rogue Warriors stacks, but I definitely will be considering Rogue Warrior stacks.
Awesome. All right, let's move on to game 2. Game 2, we have Damwon Gaming versus Griffin. Now, this is a Korean game. Damwon Gaming is the favorite right now, obviously, because Griffin is terrible. right? Damwon Gaming's on the blue side for game one, obviously.
Yep.
I can't stress this enough again. This is the Korean League. And since the lock is 2 hours before this game starts, we are not going to know who starts. But one good thing about the Korean teams is you go through the positions, a lot of them don't have backups at certain positions. So, like, for instance, at jungler, neither one of these teams have a sub. So you can play their junglers. You can feel pretty secure about playing that. Their mids, Damwon Gaming only has Showmaker as a mid, so he's someone you could play. And actually, if you look at the mid for Griffin, if you're for some reason going to do Griffin, which I will not be doing on any universe, but UCal will probably be starting. So it's important to look, if you just look at their depth chart, if you're going to play a Korean team and we're not going to have the information, trying to find players without a backup is a nice, safe way to do that, right?
Correct. In terms of would I play Griffin or not, it's a very low percent outcome that they're competitive in this matchup. I think Griffin is a 20% chance to win. Damwon Gaming is 85%. And then in terms of game flow, Damwon Gaming is not normally the kind of team that is going to try to get a ridiculous amount of kills. Like, they just beat T1, which is one of the best teams in Korea and my favorite team from Korea.
Yeah.
And they only scored 66 points in a 2-0 win.
Right.
So part of that is because of Damwon Gaming's play style, and then the other part of that is T1 not like hemorrhaging points.
Sure.
I think that my initial reaction is the initial reaction most people are going to have, which makes Damwon Gaming slightly more interesting for like tournament upside. Because if you look at their other three matchups recently, they beat APK, Hanwha Life, and Afrika Freaks, and they had high scoring matchups in all three of those.
Right.
So it's a little bit different from what Damwon Gaming has been doing for the entire season, but Griffin is a good matchup where they go for a decent amount of kills, I think. Griffin is coming off of a win, and I think that in order for Griffin to avoid relegation, that they are going to have to win a couple of their matchups
right.
Moving forward. So that might incentivize them to play more aggressive and kind of take a chance, because
Right.
it's all or nothing for them.
Right.
If they lose one of their next matchups, they're done.
Right.
So they're going to be desperate.
And that was their first win in their last 10 games, or even more than that.
Yeah.
They hadn't won in a while. And even in a win, they're even as a team, they scored 37 points.
Yeah, so that's because
APK, that's who they played.
Well, so with teams, like I said, you really want that 2-0 bonus. And
Right.
then in one of the games, they had a lead, and then I think they threw it away, and then they got it back, and they just like ended the game off of one fight. So when that happens, you're not going to get the additional points for like a bunch of dragons, a bunch of barons, or a bunch of towers, because most teams are more methodical. And if they have the lead for the entire game, they're going to take all 11 turrets on the map. They're going to get a couple of dragons. They're going to get a baron or two. And that's just not what happened in their game, because it was kind of a comeback, I think.
Right.
So in order for Griffin to get there, you really need Viper and Tarzan to have good games. And it's really the onus is really more on Tarzan, because in order for your team to create a little difference in the beginning of the game, your jungler has to create that pressure on the map and kind of go for some kills.
Right.
So if Griffin wins, I would want exposure to Tarzan and Viper specifically, and then I would kind of try to fill in the rest of my lineup with one more player, because I don't think that they really have a chance of going 2-0.
Right. And for most of these, right, like especially the Korean LPL, I know it's popular to have the Korean League team as your secondary stack, not your primary stack. Is there any interest in making a team like Damwon Gaming your primary stack in this?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that it's because of what I was saying about Griffin being potentially desperate.
Sure.
When we look at the final games of Europe and North America, I think that you would see an increase in kills in those games between teams that either like needed to make the playoffs or needed to avoid coming in last place or something like that. Like, there's no relegation in Europe or North America, but teams that are losing start trying like different strategies, more risky strategies, because they know it doesn't really matter anymore.
Right.
So with
Right.
Griffin, I think since the reverse of that is true and it does matter more, that could make your team play more aggressive. Or if they're a really shitty team, it could make them play more passive and just let the other team kind of like get a small lead, and just it's going to snowball from there.
Right.
So I hope that Griffin has the sense about them to kind of just go for it.
Sure.
With that being said, I wouldn't want more than 5% of Griffin, because you're already going to be so unique
Right.
if you have them in your lineups that it's probably not worth it.
Sure.
So if you're running 100 lineups or 150 lineups, I could see myself having up to 5 lineups, or well, I guess up to 10 lineups with Griffin involved.
Gotcha.
In one way or another.
Gotcha. Okay, good. Let's move on to game 3. I think that's it for that.
Well, actually, so before we move on,
okay.
For Damwon Gaming, Ghost is their new AD carry.
Right.
And
he's been playing well.
They've been playing around him significantly, and I'm 99% sure that he's playing good champions for Draftkings scoring.
Right.
So I would definitely want Ghost as my primary player from Damwon.
Sure, and he's got big upside. 2 of his last 4 games over 100 points, a 90, and then you talked about that weird one against T1 where they won, but he only put up a 66.
Yeah.
But and he's very fairly priced. So I like that as well.
Yeah.
And it can make you a little different because a lot of people are going to be playing LPL teams as their primary. So if you had Ghost and Canyon, etc., you have a good shot. So I do like that. Game 3, Sunning, blue side in the first game anyways against Oh My God Gaming, OMG. OMG is the favorite in this one. I guess I didn't realize OMG was that good.
OMG is not that good.
So it's weird that they're the favorite, right?
Yeah, these are 2 teams that are kind of right in the middle of the league. Like they both have matchups where they look very good and matchups where they look very bad.
Gotcha.
That's really the only way that I could explain it.
Right. Sunning has big upside. We just saw it the other day. When they win, they score a ton of points. Huan Fang, etc. Even Sword Art was his biggest game in recent memory. He put up a ton of points. He was the captain in the winning lineup yesterday, or day before yesterday.
Yeah. So I think they had an easier match, like a very easier matchup.
Yeah, they played
against V5.
Yeah, it was V5. So anyone against V5, anytime I see V5, you just attack them. So
yeah, you kind of have to have exposure to that.
Yeah.
So with Sunning versus OMG, I think that if you look at the salaries relative to other teams, OMG is the smallest favorite. The smallest favorite on the slate, even though the Vegas is saying that there's 70% chance to win.
That seems high for me. That just seems too high for me.
Yeah, I think it's because they're more of a they're more likely to win the game from a macro perspective.
Right.
Meaning like forcing objectives around the map and like outplaying them without getting kills. So like by making the correct decision more often. Sunning may force them to have more team fights because that's really Sunning's most common way of getting to value.
Right. So of the 2, would you be? I mean, both of them are cheap. You can afford to have either one as your primary, and then you could even play probably another favorite as your secondary. There's a lot of options with these 2 teams.
Yeah. So I think
which one would you want to have more exposure to? For me, I think it's the upside of Sunning, but.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think everyone else is going to agree with that. So they are probably the best underdog on the slate.
Yeah.
Which is going to make them ridiculously popular. I would expect their ownership to be between 20 and 30%.
Right.
Because a lot of people are going to look at this matchup and think to themselves, well, I've won with Sunning before. Why would I not play them again?
Sure.
And if Sunning wins, I think they will be in the mix for the highest scoring teams of the night. I don't think that OMG, like when they get behind, I don't think they completely self-destruct and give up a lot of kills. So that does concern me a little bit. And I think that OMG's ability to win from the macro perspective decreases the chances of Sunning getting a 2-0. So that makes me like their top support and team a decent amount less.
Right.
because in a situation where they lose a game, I could see the top laner or the support getting like 5 points or 10
Right.
points
Right.
or
Right.
something very low.
And just for the record, Ben is starting again over Bubu as the top for Sunning. So, and he's actually a little bit cheaper on DraftKings than Bubu. So don't get fooled by that. Ben has been for game one, anyways. Now he could always be subbed out if they lose game one, etc. But
Yeah, and Ben actually had a good series last time. I was watching that set, and I was impressed with him, and I was pretty impressed with Angel. I think in the first game, Angel played Cassidon, which is like a carry mid laner, and he had a huge game. He had like I think he had 10 kills or something like that.
yeah, he put up 103.86 DraftKings points against V5.
Yeah,
81 in the game before and a loss against Top Esports. So
and that was who?
Angel,
Angel. Yeah,
Angel,
so that's what I'm saying is like in order for Sunning to stay close in games and if they manage to win a game against a good team, they're going to have the high upside. But OMG is not the kind of team that's going to require you to get a ton of kills to win the game. Like they're
right,
going to start giving away objectives and trying to like counter one of your plays
right,
instead of trying to team fight you and win.
right.
So that does scare me about Sunning, and the fact that I know they're going to be so popular, I may want to limit my exposure to them.
Yeah,
And if I'm going to roster Sunning, maybe I make them a part of like 3 game stacks or not 3 game stacks, lineups with 3 different games in
sure,
them.
sure.
And then also by having my exposure to Sunning require them to be the highest scoring team on the slate. So like having Huan Feng or Angel as my captain,
Right,
and that would give me a lot of salary to spend elsewhere.
right, right. Makes a ton of sense. Anything else on this game?
If Sunning, if OMG wins 2-0, then I would definitely want exposure to Hacker, who is their jungler,
Gotcha.
because if they go 2-0 and they don't have huge kill scores, it's going to be because he creates a different, like a large enough advantage in the early and mid game to like win the game easily. And even though they may not get to like a 15 or 20 kill mark, he will have a very high percentage, a very high kill participation percentage, which means that all of the kills that are happening, he's going to be involved in.
Right.
So if in terms of like being less volatile, I think Hacker's probably going to be the least volatile player on OMG.
Nice. Perfect. All right, our fourth game. It's another Korean League game. It's APK at Gen G versus Gen G.
Yep.
For game one, APK is on the blue side. Gen G for me, like especially for the Korean leagues, I like Gen G a lot in this game. Of all these matchups, this is the one matchup that have played each other recently. On March 1st, Gen G beat APK 2-0.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely the most likely thing to happen. The money line for Gen G to win the series is minus 1,250, so that's 93%.
Whew.
And then APK has a 14% chance to win.
Right.
I think that there are situations where APK returns value even if they lose 1-2.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
APK requires getting big kills, and I think it would go against Gen G's instincts to play in like a very high skill matchup or a very high kill matchup against a team like this. But the last time they played, Gen G won 2-0, and their mid laner only scored 83 points. That's surprising. APK is playing better than they did back then, though.
Right.
So when I see something like that, it makes me question Gen G's like need to go for kills, and that's always very scary when you're rostering a big favorite because you need them to have that really high upside.
Right.
So that does scare me a decent amount. I think that APK is going to be a little bit more competitive this time than last
Makes
time.
sense. One thing I do like about Gen G as a favorite in the Korean League is the only position they have a backup is at support.
Yeah.
So you can feel comfortable playing their top, their jungler, their mid, their AD carry, and knowing they're going to play every game.
Sure.
Which I like that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think that if I'm going to have exposure, I'll probably have exposure to both sides just because they're on the slate.
Right.
Like to me, they're not going to be my most important teams.
Okay.
Gen G's ownership is going to be out of control. They're going to be between like
The,
probably between 30 to 40%.
right. They're going to be a popular Korean. They're probably the most popular Korean league team tonight.
Yeah, and it's for all the reasons that you said. Like they do not have as much roster volatility, so there aren't a lot of subs that you have to worry about. They're
Right.
in a very good matchup where they should 2-0, so then you're going to get the games not played bonuses. The upside for Gen G might actually be if they lose a game, because
Right.
if they lose a game, I would expect it to be very high kill score.
Right. Right. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, probably a good cash game play. Maybe not the total tournament upside, but Gen G's a nice cash game play.
Yeah, so if I was going to put together if I was going to do like top esports plus Gen G or Damwon Gaming plus Gen G and run a support out as my captain, I could see something like that working.
Right.
Because on well, actually, so that would maybe work for cash. In tournaments, I think that Rogue Warriors is a live dog, Griffin is not, Sunning's a live dog, APK is not, and then World Elite is a question mark. Like
Right.
I like World Elite more than most people, I think.
Yeah.
I think that they have a chance of winning this matchup, but it's tough
Right.
to
Right.
project that.
Anything else on APK Gen G? Pretty straightforward. We expect a Gen G dominant performance. That's what I expect tonight.
Yeah, if I'm gonna play anyone from APK, it's gonna be their AD carry.
Right. Hybrid, who has shown
Yeah,
big upside in the past, just recent history as well. So that could help their ownership a little bit. Could bring it up a little bit just because Hybrid has been so effective the last couple of slates. He was the captain in the first place lineup a couple days ago.
yeah,
Recency bias is definitely a thing in DFS.
yeah,
And the final game of the slate, World Elite and Top Esports. World Elite, blue side for the first matchup. Interesting thing about this game, the most expensive player on the slate, AD carry Jackie Love, is not starting. It is Fodik who continues to start for Top Esports.
yep,
Doesn't mean he won't play in this match, but obviously not someone you want to have in your lineup as the most expensive player on the
yeah.
slate. So don't get fooled into that just because he's the most expensive. Don't put him in your lineup.
I guarantee you that there will be people that have exposure to Jackie Love on this slate tonight because the first place takes down 100,000. So there are scenarios where World Elite wins the first matchup, Fodik looks bad, and they bring in Jackie Love. I would
Right.
not have more than one lineup that has that projection,
Right.
but I think you know is is a $15 bet on Jackie Love coming in games 2 and 3 and playing well worth
Right.
$100,000. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I
Yeah.
like that.
Now,
So it's worth a shot. It's going to be difficult to fit him in because he
that's
is
what
the
she
most
said.
expensive.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, because he is the most expensive. But yeah, it's an interesting matchup.
Yeah.
So Vegas says Top Esports is 87% favorite. World Elite is 29% to win the matchup. Let me check the standings real quick. So, what
Yeah.
do you think about this matchup? Is there anybody you're targeting specifically?
Well, I do think, especially if you're mass entering, having some exposure to World Elite as your primary stack, I don't think it's a terrible idea. The only thing I'm worried about is I think there's going to be a lot of, especially like the box score whores, who are going to
Yeah,
look at the box scores and see that World Elite has put up some huge numbers recently. Their averages are high. Just when you just kind of go through and look at the team, that T-Cherima is averaging 96.3. That's a huge average. So they're cheap, and there is some upside there. So as a contrarian play, I have some interest there. I don't know how much top esports I'm gonna have for some reason. They're gonna be popular as well.
yeah,
So I like the game. If I'm going to play it, I'm just gonna have exposure to both. And
yeah.
I
I
like the
think
savings for World Elite. There is some upside there.
yeah, I think you definitely need exposure to both sides here.
Yeah.
So there, I don't think there's really any point in going into which players are the best plays from these teams because there are like one thing that my sheet will show people who decide to spend the money on it is there are so many combinations of teams of like if you picked two teams from this slate and wanted to just run as many combinations as you could, there are so many lineups that you could pick.
Right.
So I don't want to sit here and tell people like, oh, I think that 70% of the time, if World Elite manages to win, the best lineup construction is going to be this, because it's just not true. There are so many ways to win League of Legends matches, and Team World Elite is the kind of team who can win multiple ways. So they can win through top lane. They have a good top laner in Morgan. They can win through the jungle. Beishang has showed us that before. He can have a high kill score game. They can win through Teacher Ma. He could have the most kills on their team, and they can win through Zhao Meng, and they've shown that too.
Right.
So you would really want to have, if you're going to have exposure to World Elite, you want to have exposure to multiple scenarios from them. Because if you're just putting together one lineup and throwing it out there, you're probably not going to pick World Elite as your main stack.
Right.
And if you're going to have them as your secondary stack, which players are you really going to choose? Because you're kind of limiting your upside if you have both of your carries, like your mid laner and your AD carry from World Elite in a stack with like Damwon Gaming or Genji.
Right.
So
I like the idea of one-offing, like a 3-3-1. I like the idea of maybe missing in support if you just run a one-off with your support. Because missing shown he could score 80 points in a loss. He can score 100 points in a win. So and he's a salary saver. You can get him for 4,800.
Sure.
So
I think
maybe if you're stacking some big favorites and you need salary relief and you're not sure they're even in a loss, he could hit value for you. And he's shown that. Yeah,
it's possible. So then I think that also makes the argument for game stacking this matchup.
Right.
This is going to be the most. I wonder if this will be the most highly owned game.
It could be. Both these teams have big upside, and people are going to be looking at these box scores. Like the casual fan, the thousands of people who are playing that don't know shit about this. They're just going to look at these box scores and they're going to be like, "Holy shit, World Elite! Their 80 carry averages 96.
Yeah.
Their mid average is 96, their 80 carry 82, their junglers, so it's going to make them more popular. Missing, he averages 58.5. That's a lot for a support, so I do think there is some of that there.
So I think if I wanted to be different from everybody, I would consider doing an all-out fade of this matchup, because I could see top esports winning 2-0, which would kill all of the World Elite lineups. So so let me rephrase that. I wouldn't fade the game. I would fade World Elite potentially.
Right.
Because Vegas is saying only 29% of the time they win. But that it's tough to fade them, because even in a loss they can get there.
Right. So they've done it several times.
Yeah, so I guess it's really closer to like 50-50 in terms of what like the meeting value.
Right. Like even their team score was a 51 in that last loss to LGD. 51 in a loss. And when they win, when they beat Damwon Game or Dominus Sports 69, you'll take that from your team score, and they're only 4,400. So there's going to be people going to World Elite for the upside and the salary relief, which I don't think is a terrible strategy. But
that makes sense.
Anything else in this game?
Let's see. Top esports. I like 369. I like Karsa. Karsa has shown huge upside.
Right.
So if you're looking to stack two favorites together, or like, either the top two favorites or top esports and one of the better underdogs, I think that a Karsa lineup with him and captain can actually be successful. Oh, and the last thing, this isn't a point about this game specifically, but this is kind of just a fundamental change in how the drafting is going to go for this patch. There was recently a buff to this champion named Kindred, and she's like a hyper aggressive AD carry that is a jungler, and that's going to increase the potential scoring from teams that can play Kindred. So last night we saw Kanavi from JDG play Kindred, and we also saw some other team play Kindred. Who was the first matchup yesterday?
That was Dominus and
Billy.
Yeah, Billy.
Yeah, so they played it as well. So it's a very good champion in a team environment, and I have talked about her in the past because like she creates like a mini game within the game where she's running around the map trying to kill specific objectives to increase her power.
Right.
So that increases the chances for skirmishes because, like, if I see a mark on the other side of the map and it's the one that I need to like level up, like quote unquote level up, power up, then I'm going to basically tell my team, listen, I need to go onto their side of the map. Generally, that's very bad, but I need to do it. You need to support me and follow me to the objective. And that means there are chances for more skirmishes for your jungler, for the jungler that is playing Kindred and the jungler playing against Kindred. So good teams are going to anticipate Kindred invading for marks, and will kill the Kindred because everybody knows where the next objective is for her.
Right.
And then another champion that we have to watch out for is teams that play Galio. So Galio is a mid laner that is super tanky and can respond almost instantly very far across the map.
Right.
So it's a huge team fight champion, and that's going to increase the scoring for junglers and AD carries. So if a team picks Galio, I think the jungler and AD carry could easily outscore the mid laner,
Gotcha.
which just increases the value for junglers again.
Sure.
So I think we're going into a spot where jungle captains are going to give you just as much, if not more, upside than mid laners, depending on the team.
Interesting.
So I'm not sure which teams that's really going to benefit. If I just take a quick look at it, I think Karsa, Klid, Beishang, I think that those three specifically will definitely have the chance of playing Kindred, and I would want exposure to them for that reason. And I think that Tarzan could probably do it too. And then I'm not sure about the rest of them.
Right.
And then it does decrease the upside of some mid laners. So I think that BDD has played Galio before, and he's the only one that stands out as somebody who I think would play Galio. So if your mid laner plays Galio, he's going to have lower kill upside but higher assist upside.
Gotcha.
So it might be a wash, but the jungler is going to benefit from that because he's going to get more kills.
Sure. Makes a ton of sense. All right. Anything else on this slate? That's every game. I guess if I'm doing my top three teams that I'm looking to stack tonight, for me right now, it's VG, Gen G, and Damwon Gaming, I think is where I'm at right now, with some sunning and some WE sprinkled in.
Yeah, so I'm focused on the underdogs on this one. I think that I will have lineups that have 2 underdogs in them tonight. So that's going to be what I'm focused on, I think.
Good.
I think that Sunning has a high % chance of winning, and then I would throw in lineups with Sunning plus Rogue Warriors, Sunning plus World Elite, and then maybe getting a limited amount of exposure to the big favorites by using their team, because the big favorites do have an increased chance of going 2-0.
Sure.
So if I want, honestly, Gen G, they are the most expensive team. I could see Gen G scoring 80 points. Their team scoring 80 points. I think somebody did that yesterday, where they scored 79 points.
Yeah, Billy.
Yeah, and the reason that happens is because if they go 2-0 and their 2 wins go on an extremely long amount of time because APK is just fighting back in big team fights, right, it means that the number of dragons and barons required to win the game is going to be higher than normal.
Right.
And I could definitely see that happening in that series.
Gotcha. All right, I think that's everything, huh?
Yeah,
again, thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Please hit the subscribe button, the like button. Don't forget to go over to Mike's channel, check out the live streams, the information on how to get the sheet today. He's going to have all that up for you as well. So he's at League of Items on Twitter. There'll be a link to his YouTube channel in the video description below as well. May the fantasy gods be with you all today, tonight. Good luck to you all. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we will see you tomorrow for our slate tomorrow.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all again so much. Goodbye, folks.
See you.